Good morning, Pastor Tyrone P. Jones, Church for the City, Yuma, Arizona. On December 13th, President Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act into law, which in essence declares that same-sex marriage now is part of the definition of marriage. An article by Kevin DeYoung, to me, gave some great insight on how we should think about it. In that, he said several things, but there's some things I want to say as a pastor. I am a pastor. My concern is the local church, what the church believes and celebrates and proclaims. Achieving some legal and political end is not my primary calling, and yet I am concerned that many young Christians who have more of a leaning towards society transformation and social justice may not see the traditional view of marriage from a biblical perspective, but rather from a modern progressive view. When same-sex marriage became the law of the land, the integrity of the family was weakened and the freedom of the church was threatened. First, the state is not threatening to criminalize homosexual behavior. Same-sexual behavior has been legal in all 50 states since 2003. The state is not going to prohibit those in homosexual relationships from committing themselves to each other in public ceremonies or religious celebrations. The state is not going to legislate whether two adults can live together, profess love for one another, or express their commitment in ways that are sexually intimate. The issue is not about controlling what people can do in their bedrooms or who they can love. Here's the issue. The state is now saying what has to be recognized as marriage. In the traditional view, marriage is a union of a man and a woman. Marriage is a pre-political institution. The state doesn't determine what defines marriage. It only recognizes marriage and privileges in certain ways. Now the state defines marriage and authorizes its existence. By recognizing same-sex unions as marriage, just like the husband-wife relationship we've always called marriage, the state is engaging in a massive re-engineering of our social life. It assumes an indistinguishability of gender and parenting and the unimportance of procreation in marriage. The right to marriage is fundamental. Having the right to marry is not the same as the state validating every intimate, committed relationship as a marriage. Does the state have the authority to publicly declare, privilege, and codify a different way of defining marriage altogether? I really do like what Kevin Young's analogy is. The pacifist can join the army, but he doesn't have the right for the army to declare that the right has to declare what the army now is based on their pacifism. So defining those who are allowed to marry, to be now included in the definition of marriage is wrong. Same-sex marriage assumes that marriage is redefinable and the moving parts replaceable. Redefining marriage to include same-sex partners publicly validates these relationships as bona fide marriage. Don't fool yourself. The legitimization of same-sex marriage will mean the delegitimization of those who dare to disagree. Same-sex unions cannot be accepted as marriage without devaluing all marriages, because the only way to embrace same-sex partnerships as marriage is by changing what marriage means altogether. I conclude by saying I care about the decisions of the Supreme Court and the laws of politicians that put them in place. But what's more important to me is what happens in our local congregations, from which I'm committed to preaching the Bible as God's true word for all mankind. I do not like disagreement or bitter debates that end with more harm to the relationships of my neighbors and fellow citizens, but I also reject slogans and insults designed to sling mud on me in the church. I'm not a bigot nor irrelevant, but if I stand alone, I will stand on God's word on what marriage truly is. I believe the designer is the definer, and God is the one that's designed marriage and is the one that should define it.